Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
It was such a unifying thing to the team to actually go through such adversity and to like really band together. I mean, the next morning, once the fire was out over the night on Tuesday morning was out, we had an all hands meeting, and literally in less than 24 hours, we turned the whole property, like got all the linens out, started putting in, replacing items that had been damaged, everything. And we're welcoming guests on Wednesday.
All right, Nathan, I've seen you guys have announced and launched the smoke detection for cigarette smoke, but why cigarette smoke? What's the difference?
Yeah, we call it our cigarette detection feature because it is actually a pretty smart feature, meaning we use machine learning with how the feature actually detects things. So if someone's in your rental and they've burnt a piece of toast or done something that could be similar, we're smart enough to detect that it's not cigarette smoke. So therefore, we're only going to alert you about the things that you care about, and for the things that you don't, we won't.
All right, you heard it here first. Another minute with Minute, and now back to the episode. All right, Seth Bolt. This is a special episode for me, as I've been I guess I could say this to you, a long time listener, first time guest, I guess, to you. A little different setting, but really excited to talk with you, Seth. For all the listeners that are wondering why I'm saying that to you, if you haven't heard of Bolt Farm Treehouse, then you need to check them out. And also go back to Seth's wife's episode, Tori. She was on later in the year of 2022, talking about the Bolt Farm Treehouse vision from its inception to your guys' wedding and honeymoon to this hospitality brand and behemoth it's becoming. So now I get to have you on, Seth. And for those who don't know, you are part of the band Need to Breathe. And that's why I'm saying long time listener, first time guest question mark, because I've been big fan of you and the band for quite a while. So thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will.
Of course. Well, you have been on the road. We got to do a little podcast pre-chat while you were heading into a venue and getting ready for sound check and all the fun stuff. And so it's crazy to hear your story, not just from Tori's side, but then also see it in action, where you're kind of managing these two different lives. You got your hospitality entrepreneur and a bass player, an amazing band. So I would love to know, just give me like 30 to 60-second high level overview of your journey to this point where we are today, and then we'll start going into some deeper dive topics.
Yeah, good question. I really think they intersect well. Like for me, I really thrive on creating inspiring environments where people can, be the best version of themselves. And music gives me a way to do that in a way that I can, pour my creativity into songs, and then that music can just be, sent around the world. And music's a powerful thing. Like it really shapes like the environment of the mind. And so many people who listen to Need to Breathe music, they'll say like, man, your music really helped me through a tough thing I was going through. And that means the world to me. And now with Bolt Farm Treehouse, it's my way of getting to use like both my construction background, because like I grew up watching my dad and my grandpa build stuff, and to actually like build some really creative spaces. Now you can imagine too, like with the band, like getting to travel the world with Need to Breathe. Like I've seen so much hospitality, and I've been the recipient of so
Mm.
much hospitality. And to me, there's no better place to go to like really recharge than nature. And I experienced that just from my travels because it's like obviously with music, so much time spent in cities, but anytime I could get out into the country, then I just felt like stress go away. And, that's powerful. So initially I was like, how can I take the penthouse suite, and like combine that with nature and create something that is kind of rare and unique and brand new. And so the treehouse seemed like the coolest kind of vehicle to have fit all this like posh luxury, you know, top of the world experience inside something that really kind of makes you feel like a kid and nostalgic and on top of the world.
Well, not only that, but, you know, for all of us hopeless romantics out there, it was a big act of love in the beginning, right? Like, this was your gift and surprise to Tori as you guys were preparing to, become one and, get married, and such a big gesture, not just to say that in front of the, family and friends, but now you kind of made this treehouse as a kind of a gift to her in the beginning, which is kind of inspired and spiraled into this hospitality brand, probably I would imagine bigger than you expected it to be.
Yeah, for sure. Which is kind of the cool thing about inspiration is sometimes it's just like calling you in a direction, and if you follow it, it takes you someplace amazing. And that's certainly the case for Bolt Farm Treehouse. I mean, I was inspired by love and really created the first honeymoon treehouse because I met my wife while my dad and I were building the first treehouse. And going back to what I
Mm,
was saying, like why was I building the treehouse to start with? Because I knew I needed a place where I could go and like recharge and retreat. So I grew up on a farm in South Carolina, and it's 40 acres, and I had convinced my parents into letting me do like a creative building project on that on that piece of property, tucked away back in the woods. And I'd picked out the spots and we had started the treehouse process. And then like simultaneously I meet Tori, my now wife. And then I was really inspired and was thinking like, well, how can I make this, worthy of our honeymoon? And
mm,
it was actually I just told this story tonight to some guests. We just had a happy hour event. And I was talking about how that inspiring environment, like when we were on our honeymoon, we had space. Because when I say environment, I think it's also about creating space. I think especially with our culture as busy as it's gotten, like there's a there's a value that's kind of priceless to having the right inspiring environment and having the time to be away from email, news, tech, all that stuff. To just for some people to just be alone and to think, and for people who are coupled, like to be in that space with their person. And for us, the way we used it and how it was truly magical for us is we were like dreaming about what we wanted, the next chapter of life to look like, and what we wanted, you know, our goals for work, our goals for life, our goals for our family. And we didn't know it at that time, but it all was pointing to this. And it was on that trip that we actually were like, you know, if we did if we provided this experience for other people, it would actually check nearly all these boxes, all these random things that we wanted to do. And now it's all coming to fruition. We just had our first child, and part of our desire was we wanted to raise children in a hospitality environment where they could learn the joy of serving others. And we certainly thought that would be a good way to like fight off some of the entitlement issues, and like hopefully just like I had a humble childhood and upbringing. Like grandparents were orphans, parents didn't have much, and I just watched two entrepreneurs really bootstrap their way towards building a better life. And we're trying to build on that now too. But there's something really special about, you know, small towns, communities, rural settings, and people who just have a heart for hospitality and serving others. And I'm getting to watch that play out in all kinds of ways now.
yeah, and so for the listeners maybe that didn't listen to Tori's episode, I would love for you, can you set the tone of what Bolt Farm Treehouse looks like now? It's no longer just one treehouse. It's a whole combine of tree houses and muir cabins and all these things that you guys have been building on this property. So, one, I highly recommend anyone who's listening now, if you haven't heard, definitely check out Tori's episode because it gives such a grand perspective of what you guys have been building and how this has been happening since your guys' honeymoon. But for anyone who maybe doesn't have the time to go back, can you just set us what does it look like today? Because this is such a cool environment for your daughter to grow up in. Is I kind of look at it, I have had a lot of guests and I've met a lot of people in the hotel industry who like say they basically grew up in hotels, right? Their mom was a GM. And so as a kid, they're running through the halls, checking with the housekeepers at like 7, 3 years old, for all the way through high school and college. So this is going to be your daughter's version of roaming the halls in hotels and experiencing hospitality. So I would love for you to set that scene.
Yeah. Okay. So after we had our honeymoon wedding, everything, we put the treehouse on Airbnb. My wife she was on TV previously doing like network news, and she decided to quit her job and just do the treehouse full time because it was really we were just getting amazing feedback from the guests and people who are staying there. It becomes the number one treehouse or the number one Airbnb in the state of South Carolina. And then we decided, okay, like let's follow this, let's lean into this. Because I mean, we were getting people were writing in the journal things like, this probably added 25 years to our marriage, and I
Wow.
rediscovered my best friend and things like that. So I mean, it's always meant a lot to me to create things that add value to others and to inspire people and to try to really just, kind of have a positive impact on as many people as possible. So and my wife's the same way. Like we're very unified in that vision and mission. So we bought another piece of property and started building more tree houses and just kind of kept growing, kept learning. I mean, just like crashing into the walls and like we had never done development. We had never done hospitality. We had never had like a brand branding and marketing and sales company. We were like, let's do all those things and just start them all from scratch and see what happens. And we were looking very hard for a mountaintop type setting because I was thinking that would be the ultimate place to do a luxury outdoor hospitality mountaintop wellness retreat. And so we found a spot after years of looking in Tennessee, and we're like in between Chattanooga and Nashville. And literally, I mean, this place you couldn't paint a more beautiful setting. And we've got 55 acres on top of a mountain, a mile of front row views. It's not only mountaintop, but it's also cliffside. So there's these like big, beautiful rock faces that are on the front of the property. And then there is a 6 mile lush valley and then a state park on the other side. So we built tree houses, but also there was like a beautiful cleared area. And years ago, I'd been seeing geodesic domes, and
Mm.
most of the ones I saw were in Europe. And I was just looking to see like, has anyone really taken this all the way? And a lot of people had, some good ideas, but I didn't really feel like anyone had really taken it as far as I knew that I could take it. So we built domes and tree houses at first, and then let's see, in 2022, I think I got really intrigued with mirrored structures because of having like a floor to ceiling experience from the inside where you feel like really connected with nature, and then having mirrors on three sides from the outside meant that like these structures would just reflect nature and harmonize and blend in with nature. So those are the three different experiences that we have here, and we're still growing. We just added like a few miles of nature trails, and it's truly it's an extraordinary place. Like we honestly camped in a tent when the property was for sale. The owner was like, "Sure, go ahead." And so we just spent time on the property and like studied it and figured out like what does this want to be and where does everything want to be. So it's been a very slow and natural and well, not that slow. It's been pretty fast, but a very natural progression for the growth of it. And just being a nature lover, but also being a developer is kind of a weird kind of intersection because typically, or I don't know, people think, well, developers don't care about nature and the other. But for me, I'm like, it's always a great marriage, like to be able to use such a light footprint and really, you know, have so much respect for the earth and the air. Like we're now doing something as a development company that has surprised and shocked a lot of people. The fact that in the hospitality industry and the development industry can be as sustainable as we are and having a light footprint for how we build and having a light footprint for how we operate. And so we're really trying to do something altogether different that just raises the bar on so many levels that matter to people. One of those being planting trees. Like we decided this year, we're like, what if every reservation at Bolt Farm Treehouse resulted in the planting of a tree? And we've planted well over 1,000 trees by now. So it's just cool. Like I mean, in the hospitality world is rife with this. Like you put talented people who have great ideas and love and energy, and it's truly amazing what can happen. And I think we're just getting
I was
started.
just I was just gonna ask you, how do you, a lot of people, especially that I get to talk to, they really get into the industry for the love of people, the passion of serving, the passion of creating moments, whether it's on or in destination, leading into their actual lives. So, I think you've heard this story of I think you told me this actually about the story. Maybe I could be wrong. I've had a lot of conversations today, so forgive me for maybe misquoting. But there was a story of like, a Ritz Carlton hotel. The kid, left his teddy bear, and instead of throwing it away or keeping it lost and found, the staff basically grabbed this teddy bear, dressed it up, took pictures on different parts of the hotel with the housekeepers and in the restaurant and at the pool, and then it was on a Polaroid. So then they sent the bear back to the kid with all the pictures like, hey, while Teddy was on vacation, here's what he was doing at the hotel. Thank you for your stay. And we hope that he's rested at home or whatever. It was a really nice, cute note. And so like those moments, right, they're really special. Like I even get just goosebumps thinking about that type of stuff. And then you have the business side, whether it's development or making sure you're profitable or running operations and just the other side, right? And a lot of people get in for the first half where it's, I want to provide hospitality, I want to provide experiences and moments. Now it's hard because you have this business piece where it's important. You got to run efficiently and effectively in order to provide the hospitality. How do you look and approach that with the development and then of course like running a brand and obviously making sure it's profitable and continuing to grow and scale and become the wellness retreat and destination that you are? Because sometimes I feel like maybe entrepreneurs in our industry can go too heavy on one side. And then usually there's a give and a take, right? And sometimes it's not the best outcome. So for you guys, for Bolt family or Bolt Farm Treehouse, sorry, where's that balance for you? Or how do you guys look at that and approach it?
Yeah, great question. I think so many of our decisions are, I would say purpose is one of our superpowers. And I think right now in the hospitality industry, we're all seeing this like there is a there is a war for talent. There are so many there's such a need for people who, you know, are going to show up with, love and thoughtfulness and, create stories and memories like the one you just shared with the Ritz Carlton teddy bear. And what I've seen is people are attracted to teams and organizations who are like living their purpose and would describe it as a calling more than a career. And that's how we feel. And I think on paper, businesses like ours probably are not supposed to win because there's not some big hospitality branding behind us that's been around for decades. And there's no like secret pot of money, but like
Hmm.
what we've created, the value for people is so high from all that love and intentionality that, the business is incredibly successful. And I feel like every week now I'm getting inquiries from people being like, hey, I want to do something like what you're doing. I'll pay you whatever if you teach me how to do it. You know, I uh I think this is industry's the future and they're like I think a lot of them are seeing like dollar signs because they're like, I see what you're charging per night and and, I want that too. I'm like, well, my dad taught me a long time ago, like, if money is your goal, you're going to end up making a lot of, if money's your primary goal, you're going to be making a lot of poor decisions along the way. And
Mm.
I'll never forget like riding in an old pickup truck with my dad, and we were listening to like this inspirational cassette tape. How about that? And the message was essentially like, if you instead of like chasing money will just focus all of your energy on creating as much value for others, for as many people as you can, you'll never have to worry about money. And that just made a ton of
Nice.
sense to me, but and it's really and it's played out. I was fortunate to have, two entrepreneurship parents who gave me a great financial education. So like, that a lot of that just comes natural. And then now just really by sharing and telling people about what we're doing and the impact that we're having, it's attracting so many people who have all of those soft skills and talents and the business acumen to come alongside of us. And we actually have a big team that's growing rapidly. Like we're over 20 people, actually over 30 people now. And I think we're hiring for 10 different roles just because of
Wow.
the rate that we're growing.
How do your parents feel watching this unfold? Getting to know where you came from, and they know their journey as entrepreneurs, to see now their son and daughter-in-law and hopefully, granddaughter now getting to experience this. What's that conversation like?
They're They're really proud, and I don't know, I mean, I think my dad's philosophy for parenting, which I, at this very early stage, am also, going to embrace as well, but, like, I think he just tried to make childhood hard enough that adulthood was more manageable, and so many of the values that I learned as a kid, I learned in a farm setting. That's where the Bolt Farm Treehouse comes from. So, and those are really the things that I'm sharing with our team. A lot of people who work with us did come from either, a humble beginning or a farm type setting, or just they just love exercising their gifts and they love to work. But I've almost gone, and this is probably contrary to what I see a lot of fluff on like hiring websites on hospitality. I'm like, get out of here. Like, oh, we don't care about anything more than our people and this stuff. And like, if you know the company or you've heard stories about the company, you're like, I'm, this is just what they told you to put on here to get more applicants. And we're doing the opposite. And I'm saying like, hey, we come from like farm type backgrounds and we have a culture of hard work and like we work really hard. And if that's not for you, you know, then we're probably not the right fit. But we're just being very clear about trying to attract people who really do want, like, they wake up excited for like the stories they're going to create that day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is such a dog on hustle culture and grinding and working really hard and being obsessed with what you do and loving what you do. And yeah, I'm a guy that's all I do. That's all I do. My friends are like, "What hobbies do you have?" I'm like, "I don't have hobbies. I have businesses, and that's what I do." Like it's just the way it is. And I love my team. Like my team does great. Kelsey, who's going to edit this episode and be kind of doing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, she knows it's like I'm always on Slack, I'm always working, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think, being able to say what you just said to potential employees and team members is, if you don't wanna work hard, this is not the place to be, because we work hard and we are proud of what we do. And I think it's good that you guys don't shy away from that, because I even remember being a hotel manager and just being like, oh yeah, like same thing, kind of fluffy with the job description. And if you love taking care of people and being part of a culture that's super, self-sacrificing and da da da, da, it's like, no, this job sucks sometimes. Like you have people yelling at you in line. You got housekeepers that don't show up, so you have to go inspect rooms. Like it's not easy, but it's really fulfilling because it opens up the door for a lot of moments. And I think you have to find a real special person for that. So I would love to,
Yeah,
maybe
totally.
hear on your side, where do you guys, again, where do you go into the culture piece of finding a natural team member with that, but also like, I guess, maybe rephrasing the question, sometimes people say you can't train hospitality. You can train the operations of the back end of the job overall, but the hospitality piece has to be kind of a given. Do you guys feel like you can train hospitality into team, or do you feel like you have to naturally have that ability? All right. So you're trying to grow your portfolio and your property management business, but sometimes owners don't have the best peace of mind when it comes to giving up the keys to their home to an unknown brand or company. And of course, let's be honest, sometimes we hear the horror stories of guests and the bad guests that stay in vacation rentals and throw parties. Well, Safely has you covered because not only do they screen your guests that are staying, but they also ensure that you are covered from all things such as ill intent, stupidity, aka vacation brain, and other things like pet damage and theft. While doing that, you are able to partner with Vintory and grow your portfolio with their marketing platform that helps ensure that you are attracting the right owners to your rental program and growing your business in the destination that you are in. Or if you're in multiple destinations, that works too. So get the links in the show notes because both companies have special offers. If you don't use a link, but you end up talking to them, guess what? Just tell them that Will Slicker sent you from Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, and they'll get you covered. And you can also let them know that maybe you've heard of them on our platform, hospitality.fm. So, of course, like always, make sure you grab the links in the show notes. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, we've definitely made the mistake of being inexperienced in certain, for certain roles, and like really hiring for experience, and then ultimately them, not being a culture fit. And so lesson learned there. And now, I'm not really concerned about, how, the background or, education or that kind of thing. It's like, do you have, a genuine like heart and calling for hospitality? Because caring for people is actually not something you learn in a textbook.
Yeah.
I think part of that is it's nature, not nurture. And so now for us, it's cool too to watch a team like, and I'll say the team aspect of hospitality is one of the most amazing things to watch, like when you really have a team that clicks. Because and like we have built such a strong core, we've tried not to grow too fast. We're very careful about who we, invite to be on our team, and we're very upfront about expectations. Because I feel like most of the time when a relationship doesn't work between a business and a person, like either expectations weren't properly set or one side was lying to the other, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
100.
I will be brutally honest with people and have just totally open and honest conversations and tell them, hey, like this is where we're not doing well right now. I want you to know that before you join us. And this is what we're looking to improve. Can you do this? I want you to know exactly what you're stepping into because we're a startup and this is a new thing that we're pursuing. And we need someone really great to run with the ball. Just so you know, there's not a whole lot of structure here. Sometimes that's the conversation example of that type of conversation we might have. And I think that goes a long way. I mean, people want to be part of teams and do something more. I've always been really attracted to sports for that reason. I played a lot of sports growing up. And there's just something about like the sense of duty. I mean, I feel this with my band and Need to Breathe too. Like there's something great about like having a purpose and having a team where you can hold each other accountable and you do want to show up for them, and like you start getting wins and you're winning as a group and everyone's lifting everyone up. We actually have a Slack channel called Wins, and I started something this year just doing like a needle mover award where I'll just give cash bonuses to people who are just going above and beyond and helping us grow and making us better and smarter. And it's been awesome to see all that's come out of that and how much everyone is like actually praising other people and recognizing the work that other people have done.
Yeah, it's special, and I was just having a conversation earlier today on the podcast, and it was all about, really it does have to trickle from the top down. I think you can't have, like, let's say you and Tori at the top of ownership and then have the GM only care about the wins and the hospitality and the service. It really has to come from you guys first and then down to the GM and to then to the ops manager than to whatever the position structure is with you guys. But there's something, I think when hospitality businesses are started, like you said, probably the people that are coming up to you is like, "I'll pay you whatever to teach me what you're doing and how you're doing it. I see what you're charging," and they see dollar signs and they get all excited. And yeah, maybe they care about the hospitality and the experience, right? They want good reviews and they want repeat business. And of course, everyone wants that. But it really does have to have an intention of like, I want to work with people that want to serve, and the best part about a servant heart or a servant business and hospitality is that it's kind of a selfish endeavor, in my opinion. Like, I loved when I saw my team do something really great for a guest. I got so excited. Like, that made me feel good. I was like, "I don't care how the guest feels. The guest feels great. I feel great." Like, I'm on cloud 9 watching that moment right there in the lobby or whatever it was, right? Like, it's a very selfish thing in a good way. It's a good selfish. I could be just speaking for myself. So if I'm totally wrong, you just let me know and disagree. But I think there's something super special when it actually is from the top down and it is implied that if you don't care, we're gonna care because we need you to care more than probably anyone would expect you to in this, especially in this business.
Yeah. I mean, I really think it takes harmony. Like, I think the people who are actually making the magic are people who are interacting with guests. And I think that a great manager can inspire a team even if the owner is rotten, but like what'll happen to your point is like at some point that owner is gonna put, issue mandates that,
Mhm.
either kill the culture or that kind of thing. So I just think it's competitive as hospitality is, especially, for younger companies. Like, you really do have to be firing on all cylinders. And I think as an owner, like, the way to do that is to lead by example. You
Mm.
know, I'm I am on property with my team, and I really, since the beginning, have just found that there's no more effective way than to actually be on the front lines with the people that you're working with. So whether it's, the construction team and like living in an RV next to my construction manager, and we're waking up in the morning and getting coffee and then going and building tree houses and supervising the teams, or being on site for the guests. Like, I just did a happy hour event and met guests and shared our story with them. Being at stand up with the hospitality team, we just had a super crazy thing happen where I guess for the first time in 30 years, there was like a wildfire right in this area that just happened to be right down below our property. And I was actually with my head of development, my construction manager. We were walking around looking at where we want to put some spa amenities because that's coming. And we saw smoke coming up from the valley, and like just kind of went from like a Sunday afternoon stroll to going to check that out. And then I immediately called my maintenance leader and said, "Hey, there's a fire down below the property." He wasn't even at work that day, but he's like, "I'm there." And then before you know it,
Mhm.
like other people from the team just start showing up who weren't even scheduled to work that day to help. And pretty scary thing. I mean, everyone just sprung into action, and everyone was, you know, essentially prepared, willing, and went above and beyond to help save the property. And like I was telling you, with the way that the property is shaped, like we've got this huge rock wall. So that really helped keep the fire at bay. But then as it was kind of creeping up over the sides, they were there putting it out. They were pre-soaking the ground. They were pre-soaking the structures. I had some team members, like, they got fire extinguishers out of the room, and like they were, when like embers would fly over and land and start fire, they would go put it out. So I've never felt more supported by a group of people. And we literally just went through what felt like hell and, and survived that. And today I'm ordering like some hero awards
Mhm.
for some of the team members who, like, this is Sunday afternoon, stayed up and fought the fire all the way through the night, continued working on Monday. I think they slept for maybe an hour or two on Monday night, came back on Tuesday, and we didn't lose any structures. No one was hurt. All the fire team and crews from like all around came and helped as well. And I gotta tell you, like, that's probably the most scared I've been. I just finished playing 4 shows with Need to Breathe. That was exhausted from tour, had been home for 5 hours, and then was up for like 3 days firefighting. So I was just wrecked. I was beat. But, everyone on the team saw that, saw me out there, like hose in hand, like fighting fire, protecting what we've built, protecting this dream, protecting everyone's job. And it was such a unifying thing for the team to actually go through such adversity and to like really band together. I mean, the next morning, once the fire was out over the night on Tuesday morning was out, we had an all hands meeting, and literally in less than 24 hours, we turned the whole property, like got all the linens out, started putting in, replacing items that had been damaged, everything. And we're welcoming guests on Wednesday. And that
Jeez.
kind of thing doesn't happen unless you've got a team of amazing people that work like a team. But, you know, we started talking about team, talked about the wildfire. The the thing with team I want to say is that I think about the team and like think about how hard college football recruits for talent. I think that the winners in hospitality are going to be the teams like that, to where, yeah, there's something about what they're doing that's magnetic. And they're also, because they love their guests and they love their team so much, they're not going to let just anybody on their team. And there's been situations where I had just like incredible all-star skilled hospitality legends, but like they violated a core value. And I was like, hey, this means a lot to us. And, I'm not giving you a free pass and holding you to a different standard just because you've got lots of experience and, just because you're really talented. Like, I would rather work with a group of people who mean what they say what they mean, to make meaningful relationships and do meaningful work, because I think we can outperform, teams of players who they've got all on paper they look great, but ultimately, they're just in it for the money.
Yeah, and I love that, and I gotta imagine that the next day as you guys are welcoming guests, I yeah, I can't imagine going through that. I've served in the military, and I've had that, brother kind of bond, right? Like, there's something special when you go through something really hard with a group of people or someone specifically, whether it's a partner in life, in the service, in a hotel, fighting a wildfire. There's just something special about those moments where it just I don't know how to explain it. There's just something that happens with us humans where we're like, "Yep, I'm with you for life now." Like, we can't. There's nothing that can really get in this way or in between us. And I gotta imagine there was probably a moment after that wildfire was put out where whoever was putting it out and fighting and staying up overnight and coming in after on their day off, like, there's probably a moment where you guys all looked at each other like, "Yep, this is you guys are stuck with me forever." There's gotta have been a moment, right? Like, I can only imagine how bonding that must have been in a good way and bad. Like, obviously, it's scary. Like, I can't imagine obviously, with the amount of time and investment you guys have put into the property and the experience and the brand, that's yeah, it's a close call. That's a really close call. So the other side of it not being a close call anymore and it's done, it's over with. How was that bonding moment? Did you guys look at each other and just go like, "All right, this is it. Like, we're forever grateful for what you've done." Is there anything like that for you guys?
We did, and it's something I'll never forget. And I think you articulated the emotion of that moment so well, because one of the guys is also military. So I feel like he understands that. And he said, this was the only option for what to do. There is no like just go home or just,
Mhm.
let it happen. And the thing is, I've obviously got way more to lose in this. For them, it's just a job, but for me, it's everything. So, in terms
Yeah.
of what it meant for me, it was extraordinary. And the head of construction was also there with us. So it was like maintenance and construction. We all had hoses in hand. We're doing it. He actually just started working with us. Like he worked with us remotely for maybe 2 years, but like this was his maybe like this was his maybe his like third week on the job. Can you imagine? But it's just the type of person he is, and I think that that's who we're surrounded with and that's where, tying back into what you said, like, I think everyone sees the commitment from, all levels of the org chart and the belief
Yeah.
that, on all different levels. And, for us, it really doesn't even feel like a tiered thing. Like for us, like the commitment to our guests and the opportunity that we have to really raise the standards for luxury outdoor hospitality and to create a new model that doesn't look like hotels and it doesn't look like Airbnb is really exciting to all of us. And everyone's bringing ideas to the table. You know, it's a meritocracy. It's like, hey, the best idea wins. It actually, I'll tell you, it's interesting, but and kind of a sad thing about the hospitality industry. Like I, for years now, have like this location a little over 2 years old. And I feel like for the first year, I just kept saying to my housekeeping team and maintenance team, like, hey, what's your ideas? You know, and I'm telling them all this stuff. And no one had treated them with that respect before, you know, and I just told them recently, this was actually before the fire, but we were getting together and enjoying some food and stuff. And I was like, I just admitted to them, I was like, I feel like the first year, no one really believed me. They were like, either because they had been wounded before or been kind of manipulated by, you know, management or owners who were just trying to like squeeze everything they can out of them. I was like, now I'm like, we've really turned a corner. And now, you know, there's just so much dialogue, so many ideas, so many ways that we're finding that we can get 1% better every day.
Ah, I love that. I truly do. I truly do love that. It's the I always call it the hospitality theology, right? Like it kind of gets biblical, right? Like it's it's there's no other way for me to really describe these type of stories or conversations because it just is something deeper than, oh, I love Ritz Carlton and always look up to them as an example in a lot of ways. But I love their line of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, but it's bigger than that. Like that's the suit and tie type of guest that walks in, business, we're here on a whatever. But like there's just something deeper with these type of stories and these type of bonds and moments with teams and guests that it really does. Again, the only way I could describe it is like biblical. It becomes a theology, a practice, a belief, something greater than an org chart, greater than and we even used the word startup earlier in the episode. And it's like, yeah, you guys are a startup, but like the way for it's, talking about it doesn't feel like a startup. And it's another thing you mentioned earlier that I wanted to kind of bring up is, you talked about there's no pot of money, family history that's sitting behind this brand. It's pretty new. You don't have that type of backing, but you're creating that. I think like the roots right now are you're creating that for your daughter and for the next, Seth and Tori to come take it over if that's the path that happens. And so I think there's these moments are going to be the ones you guys are going to look back at 10 years from now. And you're going to be like, "Oh shoot, 20 years from now. Oh shoot, like can you believe these guests are still coming back from when we first started at 2 years old or anything like that." So anyways, it's just super cool to watch and hear. So I'm curious, as you guys are developing this more and more and more outside of just, cabins. I know Tori on her episode mentioned about like a community center and being able to do more things for guests to interact with each other. What's on the horizon now that you've got, that hell of 3 days of putting out fire together behind you? And I know you probably haven't had time to rest since, but what is ahead for the brand and for the vision of you guys on this property and creating that legacy?
We got a lot in store. I mean, I'm a visionary, so like I'm always thinking about and dreaming about what's possible. And for us, you know, there's the spa, like creating a wellness haven on the property. It's perfect for this place. I think from a value differentiation. I mean, there's how many iterations have you seen of like a spa in an urban setting? And it's essentially just like, 50 or 80 minutes and it's a back rub, but like that's pretty much it. There's not really an experience to it. And here we have like waterfalls on the property, these gorgeous rock faces, nature trails and everything. So it really is going to be more than just like one place. And it's going to be, you know, sort of think of like a private oasis where, you can have a plunge pool and a sauna and a hot tub and quiet rooms and just for like meditation and journaling and like intrinsic work and mindfulness meditation, and then an entire experience for the spa itself, like what you go through, what you consume. Because for me, like This is a prime example, right? If the intention was just money, then it would be like, what's the most we can charge and the least we can provide, and how do we scale that? But I really do want to. For me, it's about it's not transactional. It's like, how can the experience be so life giving and elevating that and so unique that people want to come back again and again. And we've got the setting and the property for it. I mean, we're putting the spa, you can see, I don't know how many miles you can see. My guess is like well over 30, maybe 50, but you can see 3 states from that spot because you're up on top of a mountain looking out next to a waterfall. Like, we've got the environment and the setting to create a spa unlike anything else anyone's ever experienced. And I think just making it as good as it possibly can be will mean that we have people come back every year, some people every quarter. So, then speaking in business terms, like, your lifetime value is just through the roof. And you're
Mhm.
building, people are becoming like evangelists for Bolt Farm Treehouse. And, I just talked to a couple tonight and they were like, we got a dozen couples that we know would love this and we can't wait to tell them about it. And I think that's the side I want to be on, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not always optimizing for profit, but like, you will be more profitable in the long run.
Yeah, I was gonna say sacrificing the short-term success of profitability is the long-term goal, right? Because it does play out better in the long run. It's more sustainable. And I'm a quarterly type of spa day kind of guy. I it's kind of my one treat to myself. So maybe instead of hitting up the spa that I'm at in Denver, then I would be flying out to Bolt Farm Treehouse to get my quarterly spa treatment because I just love that vision and not just saying, okay, here's this building that we're going to create and we're just going to hire massage therapists for 80-minute massages or 60-minute massages and let people have awkward silent time with 5 other people in a row of chairs and all this other stuff, right? Like it's actually going to be something that's an experience. And I think, you know, do you I want to know, do you ask that question to yourself whenever you're kinda creating something new on the property or within the brand, like, how do we make this an experience outside of what people are normally used to? Is that like a normal go-to question, I can imagine?
Yes, and I'm asking the same thing of food and beverage right now too, because I feel like food and bev is such a, if it's the L and the P and L, for most hospitality
Mhm.
operations, it's like
Yeah.
just a necessary sort of evil. And like, I'm getting told this by some hospitality consultants, and I'm just like, no, like, it can be great. It can be, it can be a better experience. It should not be the same old thing. And, I'm determined to figure out what that is. So currently we're looking at like live fire cooking options. Like, can you imagine like, you know, seeing the food, like vegetables hanging down over a live fire on top of a mountain, that kind of thing. So I just feel like there's so much room for creativity, and I'm just hoping to attract, the best and the brightest and the most creative and the people who actually do want to have books written about them,
Mm.
hospitality books. And like, this group of people came together and they truly did something different that then inspired a whole new generation of what luxury outdoor hospitality can look like, what wellness and nature can do for humanity.
I love it. Well, not to rush the end of the episode, but I do wanna respect your time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me on the podcast and get a little biblical, hospitality biblical today and to share the story. It's been super, super exciting. I always ask this question for all of our guests. Well, a lot of the listeners love to connect and reach out or, share their thoughts on the episode with our listener or our guests. So if you had one link, I'm obviously going to link all your guys' socials and website and everything in the show notes. But if you had one link for people to reach out and connect with you or want to learn more, where would you send them?
Boltfarmtreehouse.com/careers. Let's work together.
Let's work together. Even better.
Let's do some
A
good
bunch of
work.
hospital.
Will, this is awesome, man. I'm so energized. I feel like I could go run a mile. Always great to talk to you, brother.
I feel the same, and thank you so much. And of course, like all of our slick talkers out there know, you can like and subscribe to all things Bolt Farm Treehouse. and careers now if you want to join an awesome team. And we'll, of course, like always, see you again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week. What's up, Slick Talkers? This episode is brought to you by my friends and first time ever podcast sponsors and partners at Hostfully. Now, I'm trying to make things as simple as possible because I know the simpler it is for you, the simpler it is for me, and the simpler it is for your business. So, with Hostfully, you can know that when you sign up with them, that you'll have the best channel integrations like Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com, the best integration marketplace, aka the marketplace where you find all your other tech vendors and partners like Minute and Safely, other sponsors of the show, where you can seamlessly integrate them into your Hostfully platform. And of course, other amazing best in class features like Hostfully's mobile app, where you can take literally every action and every piece of Hostfully on the go with you, whether you have your computer or not. You can just have it on your mobile device. And as long as you have Wi Fi or service, you're able to operate your business with ease. So grab my link in the show notes and you'll save money on their property management platform. And of course, their amazing digital guidebooks. Now, back to the episode.